So, so this is what happens. You either got to have them on Saturday or Sunday. Can't have them 2 days. Let's just do incense burning.
Incense burning, all space is filled with the fragrance. All Buddhas smell it from afar. Auspicious clouds gather everywhere. With utmost sincerity, all Buddhas appear. We pay homage and offer clouds of incense to the Bodhisattvas and the Mahasattvas. We pay homage and offer clouds of incense to the Bodhisattvas and the Mahasattvas. We pay homage, we offer clouds of incense to the Bodhisattvas and the Mahasattvas.
So I think we had a wonderful class yesterday. And I tell you, it was so good to see Zazie. Yeah, we haven't seen her for maybe 2 weeks now. And when we went out to see her, she was giving us a special 1-month retreat, a 30-day retreat. And she got sick on day one, or actually she wasn't well when we, for like maybe a month or so before we went, and she was going to just try to tough it out. And she crashed on day number 2 or 1. And she would come out for maybe 15 minutes or half an hour or so, and then she'd have to go right back. And so we kind of modified the retreat, and I think on like maybe day number 25 or something, she said something happened today, and I got a healing. And she came out the remaining few days, and every day she looked brighter and brighter. And I think by the last day, she was ready to start the retreat. I think she was out like a few hours. You know, I mean, she was like, she said, I don't know what happened, but something turned around for me. So I wanted to read something, and it happened because she was preparing questions to try to help us, because she had not been able to be with us during the retreat, and which we were okay. We were on a roll with it. The Dharma is true. So I'd like to read before this particular Dharma was transmitted, and this is the one that we are giving on Tuesday. Part of it is on Zazi's website, but what is not on there is the I think the practice is on, including the main practice, but just not the mantras and the mantras for the offering and the heart mantra, the the meditation on emptiness mantra, and the wish fulfilling mantra. And but I am giving them to you because they were released, and so I'm giving them on Tuesday, not giving them on the internet. But if you're tuning into the class, we will email them and make them available if you're taking the class online, as well as we will email the image for your altar as well, so that you can set up your practice area at home and begin to develop your practice at home, so that you can have your correspondence of thought and speech and action. For those of you who were on, and I was very happy because at all total, I think we had, I sent you a text this morning, Busita. We had 12. I saw. Okay, great. So that was really a good attendance. So I was very happy about that. So I'd like to read a little bit of an account from this book, True Stories About a Holy Monk, about his experience. And I wanted to give that testimony about Zazi and how, because if you could have seen her yesterday, I'll tell you, Zazi looked 15 years younger yesterday than she looked a month ago. I mean, just her skin and her countenance and everything. And then I wanted to tell my own story about something that's happening with me, and his story, just by way of a testimony. But let me tell you his, because he is the one who actually gave this particular Dharma that we are sharing with you. But he's the one who actually empowered and transmitted this Dharma. And this is not Buddha Master. This is one of his Dharma kings that did this one. Today, I want to transmit to everybody a most essential Dharma, Buddha Dharma. This is the will of the magnificent Buddhas. It is also the Dharma truth of my Supreme Master. And at this time, Buddha Master was a Dharma king. And his name was King Wangwo Visin Yubu. And every time you get another status or title or revelation of who you are, or who you are an incarnation of, or you get a high level, the master that proclaims that gives you another name, another title. So just about every, I won't even say eminent monk or Rinpoche. I mean, they have like 15 names, and some take on the other names, and some just keep their same name, but they got a whole bunch of others in the background. It says, you should print the Dharma words I'm about to say in larger typeset in order to cause those who are cultivating themselves to reflect upon these words and act in accordance with them. And it reminds me of when I was Pentecostal. You know, we used to have a testimony period before we had the sermon. And I mean, the testimonies were more powerful than the sermon. I mean, the sermon is just a sermon, you just talk. But the testimony is something that occurred in somebody's life, and that was more powerful than just a talk, because a person was bearing witness to something, and you knew the person, and you knew that, and you often trusted that person, or you could bear witness to what had happened in that person's life, and you knew that that was true because because you knew them, or you had witnessed it directly yourself. You saw that in their life. It says, this is you who are cultivating yourselves, you should reflect upon them and act in accordance with them. This is because only by reflecting upon this Dharma truth have I been able to attain my present state of realization. Why is it that among 1,000 cultivators, it's difficult to find even one who has control over life and death? There are two reasons for this. First, they have not followed a true master who is an incarnation of a Buddha or a Bodhisattva. They have not learned the true Buddha Dharma. Perhaps they've only learned popular Buddhism and Buddhist theories and principles. Second, they are already following a true master who is an incarnation of a Buddha or Bodhisattva and who has come to this world in response to his needs. And they have learned true Buddha Dharma. However, their three karmas of conduct, speech, and thought do not correspond with the teachings of the master. That is, they have not treated the four gems with a sincere heart. In other words, they're cultivating themselves in a false manner. As such, they will not be able to attain liberation, nor will they obtain blessings and wisdom. So it'll be impossible then for them to end the cycle of birth and death. These are the only two situations. They have not followed a true master who is an incarnation of a Buddha or a Bodhisattva, or they are following one. However, their three karmas of conduct, speech, and thought don't correspond with the teachings. Only those two reasons. And so he says these are the only two types of situations. If one learns the true Buddha Dharma, and if one lives loyally in accordance with that Dharma, with one's three karmas corresponding with the teachings of that Dharma, then one will naturally receive the unlimited blessings of that Dharma. And ending the cycle of birth and death will be close at hand, as easy as turning over one's hand. It will be that easy. Now then, what is meant by devotion to the four gems? It means that the four states of corresponding. That is, one should perfect the four states of corresponding. What are the four states of corresponding? They are as follows. First, one must be wholeheartedly loyal to the four gems. Second, this loyalty must not change. Third, no person should be placed above the loyalty to the four gems. Fourth, one must attain the level of 100% devotion. Just these four principles. And if you can practice these four principles, then becoming accomplished in every respect will be as easy as turning over one's hands. If the four principles are not successfully practiced, all cultivation that one undertakes is for naught. That means if you practice 100%, then the correspondence will be 100%. If you practice 80%, you'll have 80% success. If you practice 60%, you'll have 60% success. 40%, 40% success. 20%, 20% success. Of course, such things are, if one only attains 10%, then there's no hope that that person will receive the blessings and the wisdom and become liberated. This is because, as far as the level of devotion and action is concerned, one will be unable to receive the empowerment of the master, of the Buddhas, and of the Bodhi, and of the Bodhisattvas. So this is a matter of one checking oneself. It's not a matter of simply hearing. It's a matter of putting things into practice. It's a matter of checking and verifying one's correspondence. Are you in a state of doubt in the present moment? When one's viewpoint differs, is one willing to unhesitantly take the opinion, the side of the master, and try to put it into practice? Or does one oppose and stick with what one already knows? You know, the thing is, if I already have a view about something, there's no point in me looking for something else. If I'm pretty sure that I feel the way I feel, it's a waste of my time to investigate anything else. That's how I feel about it. If I'm not sure, then I investigate other things. Otherwise, I just don't waste my time, you know. And if I investigate something else, from a source that I'm willing to investigate it from, you know, like I just don't go anywhere I'm not willing to be open. I mean, I just don't waste my time going, and I don't waste their time going. You know, if I give my time to go, then I give my attention to try to put it into practice. I don't waste their time. I don't waste my time, you know. And so I decide that before I go. I decide that before I waste their time, you know. So I do my research before I go, you know. And if I go, I don't go and go and go and go and go. I you know, I can go a couple of times and I can know like this has some interest for me. Even when I disagree with something and I know that something is not working for me, I am open to try the opposite of that. If it does not have a flavor of harm, if it does not have a flavor of badness, it might not be my way of doing something, but if I don't find an element of evil in it, that's what I'm saying. If I don't find an element of destruction, it might be not my way, but if I don't find an element of harm or destruction in it, then I'm willing to try it. That's what I'm saying. And so that's how we find out what in us we have a resistance to. Because it's usually that I was talking with, who was that? I was talking to Maya yesterday, and I said, you know, Maya, the best way that a true Dharma friend can support me, usually not 100% of the time, but most of the time, is to take the opposite view that I have. That's the best way, is to take the opposite view, because I'm pretty strong in my own view. That's for sure. That's why Panya Deepa was such a good Dharma friend for me, because he rarely had the same view that I had. And I needed a good friend like that who could have the opposite view that I had. And he had to really be strong, you know, for me to hear that. I mean, when I say strong, he didn't have to shout. He just had to have the opposite view for me to be able to see both sides of it. And because I could be so absolute in my view, and he could whisper it, but I could like just so clearly get that opposite view, not because I was tenaciously like a dog clinging to a bone, but I could so clearly see my side, that he could just bring that other side up and I could so clearly see that side. But if he was dilly-dallying and being a little soft on something, I wouldn't be able to see that at all, And so I could appreciate that because I was just really looking for the full picture. And he could easily give me that. And so it's something about really desiring truth in the inward part that you just want to see the whole thing. And if you really want it, then you can see it. So a good friend shows you the other part so that you can get the full picture. I was somewhere, and since nobody knows this whole story, but a few people, I can kind of tell it. But this was a person who's like supposedly high up, and I would say outwardly is high up in the Buddhist ranking, but he would act out terribly, and then after he acts out terribly, then he says, I take your faults as my fault. Like he would like just act ugly. And then he'd say, I take on your faults as my fault. Just this pious saying, and then turn around and huff out the door. Like, like he's so great and magnanimous and and then I'm ready to go and like check him because he's not doing that. And everybody else would be okay with him, he's but somebody else who was never acting that way and like they can't deal with them at all, But I'm like, what's the difference? Because he's a Buddhist and they're not Buddhists, But they could tolerate that behavior. And the only difference was because he was a Buddhist. I said, but that's being partial towards somebody because they're Buddhist, And I'm like, that's not right. But somebody who never like acts out to that degree, but because they're not Buddhists, just can't deal with them. And so I said, that's being differential because he's of our sect. Wrong is wrong, and so I would check him all the time. And let's say that's not the way you should act. That's not the behavior you should act. That's not being, that's not being Buddhist. You need to get your act together. I mean, you could at least try. And if you try and you fail, you should at least come back and you should come back and you should repent. You can't just act like it never happened. Like you should come back and I mean, actually, you should apologize. You don't have to apologize to me because I know you from way back. I know who you are and how you are. But these are fairly new people in the Dharma. And you can't, on one hand, say you're a great Rinpoche and acting like that. It brings shame into the temple, But he never did. But never mind about him. I'm saying, don't look at people like that because what it will do is it'll make you be just like them without even realizing it. You'll become the same way. You become stiff-necked. And as you grow without realizing it, you'll be the same way. And you'll wonder how it got in you because you observed those as they went up the ladder and as they grew and as they developed, they became pious and stiff-necked because somewhere along the line, you saw it was all right to be that way. And it's not all right to be that way. Sometimes that creeps in. And sometimes we feel that way because we feel that there's some disrespect, you know, to the Buddha's name. There's somehow we feel there's some disrespect in our household, that people come in and they're not treating, you know, us with a certain respect. It's all right, you know, to recognize that. But how we walk that out ourselves personally, we have to pay attention to that. We have to pay attention to that. I was reading this morning on how monastics and lay should respect one another and how they should get along. And yes, it's true. There's a certain respect that the laity should show to monastics when they give up their life to live a certain way, to be there 100%. And if that's not being shown, then there is something that's out of order. That the monastics should not be the one that's running around kowtowing, you know, cleaning up behind when you come into their house. No, it shouldn't be that way. But if it is that way, you know, then there's a way that one can speak to that and not be all huffy about it. There's a way one should speak to that. So maybe that's what I need to do. Maybe I need to speak to that. Maybe I've been derelict in my duties and in my responsibility. So I will speak to that today. I will speak to that. And I take full responsibility for that. And I apologize for that. Because I can see how I have let that be in a certain way. But if people don't know how one should respect monastics, because in their tradition they don't have monastics, then I will take the responsibility for that. But there's a way that we can tell them, way that we can train them, and then if there's something out of order, then we can try to correct it in a spirit of love and in a spirit of harmony. And so I take full responsibility for that, okay? Okay. When someone comes in, the first thing we should do is we should find out. I know I used to go to, I would go to satsangs and all those kinds of things. And when they heard a guru comes to speak, and I used to love all those kinds of things. But when I went, what I realized is that the ones who really were devoted to the guru, they would wear white. I didn't, you know, but that was a way that they showed respect to the guru. I wore whatever I wanted to wear. But when I went and I noticed how the ones who showed the most respect wore white, you know, in my respect towards their guru, I dressed like they dressed. That was the way I showed respect when I went there. I put on I gotta be something white, and I wore something white, you know, and then they liked me. I didn't like dress the way I wanted. I put on something white, and I went there, and they're so nice. They ushered me up front and everything, you know, because I observed, I looked around me to see what made them feel comfortable with me. So sometimes, you know, when we go places, if we just look around and observe, you know, then we can know how we go into a person's place, and just through observation, seeing what the lay of the land is and how we show respect when we go in somebody else's house. You know, that's why the Buddha, why we have all these rules. He just wasn't coming up with rules. He was coming up with how to have a peaceful and an orderly and a loving community. He didn't just say, y'all come, you know. He had a peaceful, orderly, and loving community by setting in training guidelines for how people could live together in harmony. And I always felt like you didn't have to have a rule until a rule became necessary because disharmony was arising in the community. The Buddha felt the same way. And then he said that when you have harmony, get rid of the rules. That's what he said. You don't need a rule when everybody's in harmony. When they're not in harmony, you need a rule or a training guideline. That's a better word for it. But after a while, they started having hundreds of them. I thought, and that's too many folks. Pare it down and start all over again. That those who want to be this way, they go over there. Folks who want to be this way, they go over there. And folks who want to be this way, they go over there. Then you can get rid of the rules and let birds of a feather, flock together. That's a better way than having a whole lot of people and a whole bunch of rules. That's how I feel about it. Maybe that's how he felt too. That's why they started breaking up and going different places. These people want to act this way, fine. He get his bowl, he go down the road and he check in with another group. And so he said that's how different people have different propensities. And let the ones who can get along be together. And that's okay too. There's nothing wrong with that. We even have divides and we sit on opposite sides because of the energy. Don't even sit together. And if I'm not here, half of the group not even here. Only when I'm here does everybody show up. What's that? So just don't think I don't know things. I do. So this thing about cultivation is a real thing. Cultivating is not just when it can be seen and noticed, but it's all the time. Because it's what proceeds out of one's mind. What proceeds out of one's mind rolls from one's lips. And it creates a certain energy that manifests in one's action. And one knows the place from which it proceeds by how it's carried out. It's not that it's just carried out, but how it's carried out. Whether it's carried out with a sense of selflessness, or whether it's carried out with a sense of something being given, something, we could say given, but also something being offered. Offered sounds magnanimous, like doing something, but offered still has a lot of self. Matter of fact, offered can have more self than offered can have more attachment to it than any other kind of giving you can do, because it sounds like it's selfless, but offered can be full of attachment. If you really think about it, when you think you're offering something, it's like, I am offering. It could be so full of self. So we have to be careful when we think we're offering something. There has to be a self. And so the principle of a bodhisattva is no giver. There's no giver, there's no recipient, and there's no gift. And that's a tall order when we start thinking no giver, no recipient, and no gift. And that's almost like when somebody gives you something and you like just pass it right on. Sometimes people give me things, and before I can even use it, it's gone from my hands to somebody else. Sometimes it's before I can think I need it, because goodness knows a lot of times I do. Before I can even think, boy, I sure needed that. I just do it right like that. Before my mind can even start to think I need that. Because even as I can think I need it, I can also think that somebody else needs it, you know. So before I start thinking about my need, I can just pass it along. And it's a way that one comes to be in their life. And then when one has a need, you know, then one is not so concerned about one's needs. I have lots of needs, you know, but from the time I was young, even before I got into this space, I would always think that my needs would be met. My needs have always been met. And there are many different ways I thought about it. In the beginning, I would think my needs would be met as a Christian, not according to what I had, but according to his riches and glory. That's how I thought, you know. And my needs were always met, you know. And I still feel that way, you know, because I can look and I understand the workings of things. And I don't need that much. You know, I was telling Kay, I said, Kay, I think I eat about 1/3 of a meal a day now. I know I look fat, but I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm just a big windbag because I hardly eat. Yeah, I can eat on one meal. It takes me 2 days to eat one meal, and that's fine. So I want to finish this story. As he said, I originally planned to stop speaking here when I got to this point. He says, but I want to tell you what happened to me. Where'd the story go? Oh, hold on one second. I pulled the paper out, but I want to read his words, so just give me a second. You can't tell somebody else's story. I might have to tell it if I can't find it. Oh, well, for the sake of time, I will tell the story. He said, it's so good too. He said he started having doubts. Mm. He started having doubts about the Dharma. He'd been practicing for so long. And he started having doubts about his teaching. Mm. Oh, this is so bad. So, do you know where it is in this book? Because I really want to read his words. I thought it was right here in the front. You know what I'm talking about? In the 3 months.
I could check it out.
Okay. It's right in the front. And I'd like to just give her 30 seconds to find it because it's right here. It needs to come. Yes. Thank you. That is it. Okay. I previously went through the following negative course of events for a certain period of time. When my Dharma King master was performing an initiation and empowerment for me, he said, "I will cause your countenance to become extremely solemn and dignified, like that of a great virtuous one." At the time, I silently thought to myself, this ugly face of mine is like that of an ape. The master will be able to make it more solemn and dignified only to a limited extent. Each day as time passed, as I grew older in years, my impermanent face became more and more ugly. One day, my Dharma King master called me to his side. He pointed to me and said, "How is your cultivation going?" I said, "It's all in conformity with the Dharma. He said, show me that which is in conformity with the Dharma. I said, that which is in conformity with the Dharma cannot be seen. He said, show me that which cannot be seen. I said, that which cannot be seen is here. He said, what thing can this be called? I said, that thing which, that which is a thing is also not a thing. He said, in name, there are material things. We know that in reality, a thing is itself Dharma and is itself empty. Knowing it's a thing, one does not become attached to it being a thing, or it is not being a thing. One does not cling to either things or Dharma. Form and emptiness are not different. One should not become attached to form or emptiness, I said. Amitabha, he said. Has your countenance improved? I said. It is more and more ugly. He said, all right, come see me on your knees. I lowered my head and on my knees made my way to the Dharma King. He allowed me to raise my head, and just as I was raising my head, I heard two slapping sounds. He had slapped me in the face twice. After the slapping sound subsided, he sternly said to me, your thought of doubt towards me, which you previously harbored, has caused you to be unable to receive empowerment. Those on the first bodhisattva level do not understand the matters of the second bodhisattva level. You who have the potential to become one of the greatest Dharma kings in this generation is truly pitiful. Go and contemplate this. And actually, at that time, I had already understood one cannot give rise to doubt about what the master says, and I underwent a true repentance. It is true that the mysteries of the Buddha Dharma transcend all of the impermanent things of the world. In just one short month, my face suddenly changed dramatically to become solemn and dignified. To put it in worldly terms, it became awe-inspiring and very good-looking. Those disciples of mine who had not seen me for a few months could barely recognize me. Some of them even spoke absurdly by saying, our master ascended to heaven and thoroughly remolded himself. This is truly a first in the world. Actually, this is not the case. The transformation of my countenance was totally due to the empowerment of my Dharma King and my three karmas of conduct, speech, and thought corresponding with the teachings. What is this? This is called the true and correct Dharma of the Tathagata. And so today I'm able to transmit to everybody this most essential Buddha Dharma because it is the will of the magnificent Buddhas in the 10 directions. And it was on this basis that he was empowered to give this Dharma to us. And so what I'm trying to share with you is about something that comes not through understanding something with our intellect, but a true power that comes. Now, when I observed Zazi and how she persevered when we were in California, and I saw something transform in her, and it's still going on with her. And how I'm going to tell you in July, because I got sick in June. And July, I thought I was dying. I was almost dead, for sure. And in August, when I was out there, that was like my last act when I went out to California in August. And now it's September. And something happened to me when I was out there. And it was like close to the last, I think the 27th day. And we were at the end of the book. For me, the sutra was like a transmission. And it was almost the last page of the next to the last chapter. And it was just one line in there for me, and it spoke of the spinning of the mandala, and it was the one line that he gave me, and he said that he gave an instruction there, and he said, and the mandala will spin, and something shifted in me, and a certain kind of wind turned inside. And it's not spinning all the time, but it spins from time to time. And when that mandala spins inside of me, that shift occurs. Half the time, I don't know if I'm in my body or out of my body. Something shifts, and it connects me with something that is life-giving. And when that happens, I'm connected in a different way. I don't know how to explain it right now. I don't know how to explain it right now. It's not all clear to me, but it's becoming clearer and clearer to me. When it's all clear, I'll let you know. But connected with a force, with an energy, with a power that I can only call life. So we were talking yesterday, and a sister was trying to clarify something for me, but I had an experience, and she could not clarify that for me because she hasn't had this experience. But Buddha Master in the teachings made something very clear for me. And that was where the power comes from to act. And when we think that it's coming out of ourselves being in a certain place, but it's not coming from ourselves at all. And where it comes from is when we are when there is no giver, there is no receiver, and there is no gift. We have completely stepped out of ourselves so that there's been a complete collapse of the person, and there is only the eruption from out of the Dhammakaya, the emptiness that creates a link through the Sambhogakaya, and that the Nirmanakaya can act, then that is the perfect place. So it's completely out of the Nirmanakaya, and that's where we have to get to for there to be any action that takes place in this world. And so that's what I now understand. It's only when there's the complete absence of self at all, not the perfect self, not the beautiful self, not the magnanimous self, not the generous self, not any kind of self at all. Totally, when I say devoid of self or empty of self, the folding back of the Nirmanakaya, folding into the Sambhogakaya that rests in or into the Dhammakaya, and out of that place, all things are accomplished. And that's our total work, is to dissolve back into the Nirmanakaya, and then it manifests it as anything that needs to come into being. And we absolutely then have nothing to do with it. The perfect thing, the perfect work, the perfect place, the perfect everything manifests in this world. So then, what is it then that we have to be worried about? What is it that we have to think about doing? What is it? There is nothing. There is nothing. And so every once in a while, I am touched deeply by this knowing. Doesn't mean that there aren't things here that have to be tended to. No, it doesn't mean that at all. It just simply means that no amount of stressing gets any of that accomplished. It actually just throws spanner in the works. But if we can get into a certain place, then all of those things will be, like the I Ching says, accomplished in 7 days. But when we mess with it, then it complicates matters. And it creates our issues. And sometimes that means some things will come into being, and it means that some things will fall apart. But we can't be vested in any of it. So there'll be some things coming into our lives. There'll be some things going out of our lives. There'll be some people coming into our lives. There'll be some people going out of our lives. And this is all due to causality, causes, and conditions. But if we are cultivating properly, not clinging to anything, then we know that we are absolutely creating the right causes and conditions for the perfect good fortune and wisdom to be emerging in our lives right now. And that is what I have understood. So I say to you, whatever might be troubling you, don't let your hearts be troubled, and don't be afraid. This is the only route to happiness and contentment, to peace in your life, to sustained joy, and to being able to abide in every moment, to experience this marvelous existence that we call now. This is where the path converges. This is where the shore, that other shore, becomes here. There is no other shore. There is only here. That's what's real. There is no path. There is no place to step off into. There is only this. And there is only now.